Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let's talk about the most common type of online scam, the phishing attack, how to protect yourself, and how AI is going to make it worse. So at this point, I think just about everybody has seen a phishing attack, and I hope you haven't fallen victim. A phishing attack is when you get either an email or a text message or a message in some other system claiming to be from some company or service, but it's really not. The message is fake. It's not from that company. It's sent by a scammer, usually using a system to send out thousands of them at a time. Most of the time, it contains an urgent message, like you owe somebody money or something is wrong with one of your accounts and you need to fix it immediately. And usually they look pretty legitimate. The idea is to scare you into thinking it's real and wanting to take action right away. What these messages are doing is trying to get you to click on a link or call a phone number in the message. Of course, you're not contacting the real company. You're contacting the scammer. Often you're going to a fake website that looks just like the actual website, and it's asking you to log in, entering your ID and password. But what you're actually doing is giving your ID and password to a scammer so that they could then use it to log into the real website and pretend that they're you. Most of the time, it's about links. Sometimes it's about calling a phone number. Other times, they just want to get you to reply to the message so they can start a conversation and extract information from you. If you fall for it, then the scammer has your ID and password and can now get into that account. It could be a social media account, so now they can pose as you, or it could be a financial institution, in which case they can use the ID and password to steal your money. Now, I'm going to show you some examples in a minute. But first, I want to talk about some bad advice that's out there. There are a ton of articles and other videos that will tell you how to spot phishing attacks. But a lot of the advice they give is wrong because it won't prove whether or not the message is, in fact, a phishing attack. For instance, a lot of times they'll tell you to look at the from email address. And indeed, in many cases, the from address doesn't make sense. It's coming from a company, say Apple, but yet the from address isn't from Apple. However, it's easy to fake the from address in an email. So it may appear to be legitimate, but it's not. So that's not a good way to tell whether or not it's real. Also, a lot of places, and I'm sure before long there'll be a comment to this video that says that you should look for bad grammar. But that is only true some of the time. A lot of the time, the grammar is perfect, and often it's actually taken from real email messages from the real company. They're just copying and pasting. So looking for bad grammar is not going to be a good way to tell whether it's real or not. And it's the same when you look at the design of the message. They could use the same graphics, the same logos, the same colors as the real company, and they can even include the same contact information. As a matter of fact, a common technique is to include lots of information in there, a phone number to call, an address, various different links to parts of the website, all which are actually the real links. So as you check through it, the email seems legit, but there's one link in there, the one that they're hoping you click on, which is the fake one. And speaking of links, that's another place where people would tell you to check carefully, to look at the link before you click on it. But it can be so hard to tell if a link is real or not. Sometimes they can look legitimate with one letter being out of place that's really hard to spot, or using the real name of the company in there, but that's not actually the address for their website. Sometimes they'll use redirects. So it looks like the link is to a real website that you know, but it's actually going to redirect to another bad website. By the way, if you find these videos valuable, consider joining the more than 2,000 others that support MACMOST at Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. You can read about it at macmost.com/Patreon. So here's an example of a phishing attempt that looks like it comes from Apple. As you can see, it's an urgent message trying to get you to panic just a little bit so that you'll not see that's a phishing attempt. Here, if you look in the from field, you'll see that it's not from Apple at all. But you can't trust that. Sometimes it will actually look like it is from Apple. So we're lucky here in that we could see that this is bad, but it's not always going to be that easy. The rest of the email looks pretty legitimate. It's using Apple's design. It looks like a message from Apple. And if you actually move your pointer over the big blue button there, you'll see that it doesn't seem to go to a bad website. but it's actually redirecting using Yahoo and Google, and you have no idea where this link is actually going. But it's not really obvious just from looking at the link that this may be bad. Here's another email message. This one seems to come from Amazon. And you can see here the from is really mysterious. It's hard to tell whether this is real or not, although a real email from Amazon would come from Amazon. If you look at the message, you could see it's using Amazon's colors, it's using their logo and all of that. And if you look at the button here, you move over it, you could see that it's actually going to a Google Doc, which why would Amazon be sending you there? So it's pretty easy to spot that this one isn't real, even though at the bottom they've got some real information here. Here's a really common one. This looks like it's coming from PayPal. Notice it does actually seem to come from PayPal. So you really can't tell from the from that it's a bad message, although there are other indicators up here. Notice how it's trying to create a sense of urgency. And a lot of the information here, like for instance, the logos, a lot of the information here at the bottom, including all of these links and such, are legitimate. So you may actually think this is really coming from PayPal if you look at all this information. But the phone number that they keep repeating over and over again, I've changed it in the message here. I'm sure when you do call it, it sounds like you're actually talking to somebody at PayPal. But eventually, they'll try to get information from you to either get into your PayPal account, your bank account, or somewhere else. And here's another very common one. This often comes as a text message instead of an email. And you get this message. It says it's from the United States Postal Service or maybe UPS or some other delivery service telling you that there's some sort of problem with a package you're supposed to get. But if you look here, you can see that the link isn't really USPS. It's USPS.com dash and then all these other letters there, .VIP. Obviously, U.S. Postal Service is not going to use a real link like that. But sometimes it may not be obvious from that URL. A quick glance, it looks like it's coming from USPS.com. So if you've never seen one of these before, you may easily be fooled. Plus, you could simply reply to this message, and then you'll be talking to a scammer who could be trying to get information from you. So from those examples, you can see you can't always rely on the from email address to let you know that it's a phishing attack. Often there's not bad grammar. Very often they use real links and real information and logos and colors and all of that in there, even though there's one bad link hidden in there somewhere. And even if you check the links, sometimes it can be really hard to tell, especially if they're redirecting through other services. So how do you really protect yourself against phishing attacks? Well, the most important thing is, of course, not to click on the links in those email messages. When you get a message like this, just make it your practice to never click on a link there. If it's telling you there's a problem at Amazon, then go to Amazon.com and log in there. If it's telling you there's a problem at PayPal, then go to PayPal.com and log in there. Don't click on the link there. Rely on the bookmarks that you have in your browser or by typing the URL that you know, not anything you see in the email. And the same thing for phone numbers. If it's a phone number in a message, don't call it. Instead, use the number on your credit card or the number on a bank statement and call the company directly. Don't use the phone number that's in the message. Of course, never reply to the email or message at all. If you really do want to check it out, call the phone number on an official document that you received separate from this phishing attack or message the company through their official website. And another way to protect yourself is to just use a password manager. Password managers have an ID and password saved in there, but they're associated with a website. So if you happen to be caught off guard and you click on a link in a phishing message and you go to a website that's not the real website, then your password manager is not going to offer up the ID and password for that site because the domain name for that site doesn't match the domain name for that ID and password. And hopefully the fact that your password manager doesn't recognize the site is enough for you to realize now that you almost fell victim to a phishing attack. Now let's talk about AI. Most phishing attacks don't use AI yet, but it's predicted that AI is going to make things a lot worse. One of the things AI can do is it can look at vast amounts of information, look at everything online, and match details about a person before sending out something like a phishing attack. So it can look for personal details about you, like what services you use, places you've posted, things you've posted about, and put personal details in the fake email messages that you get. And these personal details may be enough to throw you off guard and think it's legit. Also, AI is great at fixing your grammar. It's hopefully one of the things that you're using AI for right now, but it can also help scammers there. They can use it to fix the bad grammar in the messages they send out as well. It can also be used to make the psychology of the messages better. Just like you might be able to use AI to rewrite a cover letter to go with your resume, a scammer might be able to use it to rewrite their scam messages to make them more effective. And another thing AI can do is look through all the vast amounts of information out there and match you up with people that you may know. And if it does that, it potentially could start sending you messages that don't appear to come from companies or services you use, but from people that you know, trying to get you to click on a link that appears to come from a friend or family member. So be on guard for that. I want to finish up here by talking about what to do if you've fallen victim to a phishing attack. If in a vulnerable moment you click on a link in an email and only after, say, giving your ID or password or some other piece of personal information, you realize that this was a phishing attack and not a legitimate message. So what should you do then? Well, of course, for whatever service was affected, you should immediately change your password. And when you do that, also go into your account settings and check to see if anything else has been changed there. If the scammer got into your account before you got to change your password, they may have changed something else. Like, for instance, they may have put another email address or another phone number as a backup contact for that account so that later on they can claim that they couldn't get into the account and to please send a code or link to this other email address. So check all your account information, especially if the site has security questions. You know, it asks you what high school you went to or the name of your favorite pet, that kind of thing. They may have changed those or looked at your answer for those if that's possible, so they know that. So later on they can try to get into your account. It's best to change those answers if you can. Of course, if this concerns any financial institution, you should contact the financial institution. Even if you got to change your password soon after the attack, you don't know if they got in there just before you did. So contact them, tell them that you may have been compromised, and they should have some next steps for you to do. And then also check your transactions, not just right now, but also check later in the day, tomorrow. Keep checking over the next weeks or months to make sure all the transactions are real. And if this isn't a bank or something, but maybe a social media site or something like that, then check your activity. Make sure nobody else is getting into your account and posting using your identity. And always remember, no matter how smart somebody is and no matter how cautious they are, it's always possible to be scammed. As a matter of fact, thinking that you're invulnerable to being scammed is a surefire way to maybe let your guard down and be scammed at some point. The best way to protect yourself is to educate yourself about these kinds of scams, keep learning about them, and help protect your friends by telling them about these kinds of scams as well. Stay safe, and thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.